Okay, moving on now to some other news. The Supreme Court has rejected Somnath Bharti's anticipatory bail plea in the domestic violence case that has been filed by his wife, Lipika Mitra. So Somnath Bharti now has very, very limited options. In fact, absolutely no options, with the Supreme Court asking Somnath to surrender by this very evening. So the Supreme Court there questioning Somnath Bharti even as a responsible citizen. But I'll go straight to Anusha Soni, who's been tracking, this very news from the very beginning. Anusha, you've been tracking all the developments first, in the lower court, the High Court, and now the Supreme Court. What is it really that the Supreme Court has observed while it quashed Somnath Bharti's anticipatory bail?
As we spoke earlier also, and we have been pointing out to the fact that his conduct, his very own decision to be absconding, to not to surrender before the due process of law, that is the very thing that has gone against him and acted to his detriment. The first observation today of the Chief Justice of India when he began hearing this matter, senior lawyer Gopal Subramaniam appearing for him, was that what sort of behavior you have been doing. Are you a responsible citizen of law? First, you should surrender and then you should come to us for any sort of relief. So these are the first observations he made. And towards the end of it, the Chief Justice very...
Okay, I'm trying to speak to my producers here to get the very latest update. This is a developing story right now. The Supreme Court quashing the anticipatory bail there of Somnath Bharti. Remember, he has been evading arrest for all this while. The police have even launched a massive manhunt to try and trace him. But so far, Somnath Bharti has evaded arrest. Ankit Tyagi, our correspondent, who's also been tracking this, story quite closely, joined. Okay, let's go straight now to Ankit Tyagi. Ankit, now tell us what happens from here on. What are you hearing from your sources in the Delhi police? Okay, I'll try and go back to Ankit
because the bail has already been rejected by two courts, Session Judge and High Court. So the court said you first surrender, then we will look into the aspect of mediation on Thursday. So the bail is not rejected by the Honorable Supreme Court. The Supreme Court has only asked us to my client to surrender, and the Supreme Court said that it will take up the matter on Thursday itself and see to it that whether reconciliation is possible and what is to be done further in the matter.
ठीक है चलो हो गया एक मिनट अरे मैं बोल रखा है एक मिनट
Okay, so the lawyer there of Somnath Bharti making it very clear that his bail plea has not been rejected, but the Supreme Court has asked Somnath Bharti, who's a sitting Aam Aadmi Party MLA, to surrender immediately and stop evading arrest. The Supreme Court there saying that the MLA should now surrender by today evening itself. Remember, the Supreme Court has made these observations today, and the lawyer even mentioned that this case will be taken up once again on Thursday. So the Supreme Court making that observation that Somnath Bharti needs to surrender with immediate effect. The Somnath Bharti there, who has been seeking protection from arrest in a domestic violence case and attempt to murder. Let's just try and understand this from our correspondent Ankit Tyagi, who joins us now. So Ankit, I was just hearing the lawyer speak where he said that, the bail has not been rejected. This case is going to come up once again on Thursday, but the Supreme Court asking Somnath Bharti to make his presence felt, to surrender immediately.
Well, of course, the lawyer, when he's speaking there, he will have to say things that do not appear as against his client. One thing is very clear: these are scathing remarks by the Supreme Court. There was Somnath Bharti, before you were asking for this anticipatory relief, you should, like a responsible citizen and somebody who understands law, who is an officer of law as a lawyer, should present himself before the investigating officers. So one thing is very clear now, Bantika, that there is no option left for Somnath Bharti but to present himself before the police, or for Delhi police to arrest him and bring him in front and make him join the investigation. Remember, in the last, more than a week or so since Somnath Bharti has gone absconding there have been this cat and mouse game going on. Delhi police coming out and saying that we are very close to tracking him. We know where he is. We have our surveillance on him. The question that many were asking whether the Delhi police has why is the Delhi police not been able to arrest Somnath Bharti?
Right. Oh, absolutely.
Now,
so many questions was raised about that because he's a sitting MLA in the first place. The Delhi police claiming to have launched this extensive search operation, but Somnath Bharti repeatedly, Ankit, has managed to cock a snook at the Delhi police.
Precisely. Two things that we need to understand on this. A, of course, there are Delhi police might be facing because Somnath Bharti has, according to them, acting like a criminal. He was absconding, he was changing location and so on and so forth. But this then also it becomes a question of competence. But rather than the question of the, or the competence of Delhi police, I think it's a well planned out strategy as far as police officials are concerned. They want this to go on for as long as possible, for it to drag for as long as possible, so that they can make their case strong. They can present to the courts that Somnath Bharti is deliberately trying to evade arrest, and we are doing our best. If more Somnath Bharti is on the run, it appears, at least as far as the perception is concerned, that he is trying to evade arrest because he has something to hide. That is the case that probably Delhi police was trying to make. They have been successful in making the same argument in the lower court, then at the higher court, and now the Supreme Court asking Somnath Bharti to appear before the investigating authorities. No option left for him. Perception-wise, he has not only made things difficult for himself, but also embarrassed his party, and many would say has got trouble for his family also, because Delhi police again and again have asked his brother, his sister to present themselves before the investigating officer. Now I believe it's just a matter of time before Somnath Bharti either appears before the police himself, or the police very soon arrests him and gets him to the investigating officer at Dwarka police station.
Okay, just stay with me, Ankit. I want to go to Anusha Soni. She was outside the Supreme Court tracking all the developments there. Anusha, I just read the news and heard the lawyer saying that this matter is going to be heard, once again on Thursday. If you could just take us through what exactly happened in court. The Supreme Court, making some very strong observations and asking, Somnath Bharti to surrender immediately.
Absolutely correct. There's a slight distinction here that one needs to understand. This is an anticipatory bail application that he had moved. So the argument of the court was that the lower court has rejected it, the high court has rejected it. We cannot give you any relief because of the way you've been conducting yourself. If you are a responsible citizen and you are a sitting MLA, your conduct requires that you go and first surrender before the process of law. Now, if he surrenders, and he'll have to surrender today because the Supreme Court has directed him to, the next hearing would be on his bail application, not the anticipatory bail application. The argument of the lawyer of Somnath Bharti was very technical today. He talked about the fact that how there were no trained mediators which were involved, how there are interests of children that need to be taken into account. And on that, Supreme very categorically said that at this stage, we are not concerned with the merits, with the facts that you're mentioning right now. And he needs to come forward, surrender first, respect the process of law, and only then we'll hear the technical points you are raising on Thursday. So, of course, a very stern outlook there coming from the Supreme Court. And at the outset, the court made it very clear that we're not entertaining a petition by a person who's trying to evade the process of law. In as many words, the Chief Justice of India was of the view that he must come forward, surrender, and only then he can expect any sort of relief from the highest court in the country.
Then on Thursday, and I'm just, if hypothetically he does surrender by today evening, Anusha, will then the Supreme Court take cognizance of, this particular case and go into really the details of this case and study the merits?
Yes, that's how it looks like. That's what it appears from today's hearing, that the points he has raised about the fact that there were no trained mediators, interest of the children, privacy, and also certain points of law that should be taken into account, certain facts and evidence that needs to be looked into. All of the technical aspects, Supreme Court is inclined to hear only on Thursday. So, of course, as you said, that we're going to hear, know more about this case only on Thursday.
All right, Anusha and Ankit, thank you both for joining us, getting us the very latest updates. So the Supreme Court there asking Somnath Bharti to surrender by today evening, and only then will they continue to, study this case in detail.